amazing. This is Robert Chan Ambumagat and you can call me Teacher Robert. For today's video, we will cover some important topics involved in the subject microbiology and parasitology. Today, let me guide you on these three fungal pathogen and parasites, namely Cryptococcus neoformans, Cryptosporidium parvum, and Demodex follicularum, together with their different characteristics, morphology, classification, life cycle of the organism, and so on and so forth. Without further ado, let's start!
First, we have human fungal pathogen, which is the Cryptococcus neoformans. Cryptococcus neoformans is a yeast fungus producing yeast cells during reproduction. The yeast cells are dry, mildly encapsulated, and light, making them easy to aerosolize. Around or oval yeast measuring 4 to 6 micrometer in diameter, surrounded by a capsule that can be up to 30 micrometer thick. In culture, neoformans, they produce whitish mucoid colonies, which are spirally budding cells 5 to 10 micrometer in diameter and are surrounded by a thick non-staining capsule. For its classification, Cryptococcus neoformans belongs to the kingdom of Eukaryota, domain fungi, phylum Basidiomycota, class Tremelomycetes, order Tremeles, family Tremelaceae, genus Cryptococcus, species C. neoformans. Moving on to the life cycle of Cryptococcus neoformans. The life cycle of C. neoformans involves two different forms, which is asexual and sexual. For the asexual forms, haploid and unicellular, it exists as yeast cells and produces by body. For sexual cycle, it is represented by conjugation of two yeast cells, production of long hyphae with clamp connections, formation of basidium. Basidia produce sessile basidiospores by repetitious budding that results in chain of basidiospores. In addition, C. neoformans is a saprovic fungal species with the unusual feature of having a polysaccharide capsule when infecting the human body. The cell wall of C. neoformans contains melanin, which is thought to be a virulence factor. It is most often found as yeast cells but has the ability to form pseudohyphae as well as short-lived hyphal stage, which exists solely for sexual reproduction. Next, we have the epidemiology and transmission of Cryptococcus neoformans. Cryptococcus infection is a rare in healthy human population, and most cases occur in 20 to 50 years old age group. So, in addition, an estimated of 220,000 cases of cryptococcal meningitis occur among people with HIV or AIDS worldwide each year, resulting in nearly 181,000 deaths. Although the widespread availability of antiretroviral therapy in developed countries has helped improve the immune systems of many HIV patients so that they don't become vulnerable to the infection of Cryptococcus. So cryptococcal meningitis is still a major problem in resource-limited countries where HIV prevalence is high and access to healthcare is limited. On the graph on the left side of this presentation is the global burden of HIV-related cryptococcal meningitis. As you can see, Sub-Saharan Africa have the highest cases of cryptococcal meningitis, having 720,000 estimated of this disease. Next is the East, South, and Southeast Asia, having 133,600 cases. Next is North, South Americas, and Caribbean, having 70,000 cases. Europe and Central Asia, having 27,000 estimated cases. And lastly, North African and Middle East, having 6,500 estimated cases of cryptococcal meningitis. For the transmission of this disease, the infection may be spread to humans through contact with pigeons, droppings, or unwashed raw fruits. So we all know that Cryptococcus or cryptococcosis is caused by a fungus known as Cryptococcosis neoformans. So, contact with an infected individual also spread the infection. Individuals with disorder characterized by lowered immunity, for instance, HIV infection, are at high risk of contracting these infections. Next is the pathogenesis and diagnosis of C. neoformans. The infection is initiated by the inhalation of yeast cells, which are dry and lightweight, making them easy to aerosolize. The fungus gains entry to the body through respiratory tract system, causing a minimal pulmonary infection that is transitory. The primary pulmonary infection can be asymptomatic, mimicking influenza infection, and it resolves spontaneously. For immunocompromised patients, the yeast replicates and spreads to other parts of the body and majorly to the central nervous systems. Affecting about 15% of HIV or AIDS patients, it starts by causing mild infections of the pulmonary system, which spreads to the skin, bones, viscera, and the central nervous system. When the CNS is affected, it eventually causes cryptococcal meningitis. Other common sites of dissemination include the skin, adrenals, bone, eye, and prostate gland. There is a minimal inflammation causing granulomatous reaction. So for patients who get cryptococcal meningitis and are under highly active antiretroviral therapy, are likely to develop immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome, which greatly exacerbates the illness. This is also common in AIDS patients with tuberculosis. For the diagnosis of this disease, the healthcare providers will rely on your medical history, symptoms, physical examinations, and laboratory tests. For the sample of tissue or body fluid such as blood, cerebrospinal fluid, or sputum, it will send the sample to the laboratory to be examined under the microscope, tested with an antigen test or culture. Also, your healthcare provider may also perform tests such as chest X-ray or CT scan of your lungs, brains, or other parts of the body. Moving on to the symptoms, prevention, and treatments of C. neoformans. C. neoformans usually infects the lungs or the central nervous system, but it can also affect other parts of the body. The symptoms of the infection depends on the parts of the body that are affected. In the lungs, cough is the common symptoms of Cryptococcus infection. A C. neoformans infection in the lungs can cause a pneumonia-like illness. The symptoms are often similar to those of many other illnesses and can include cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, and fever. In the brain, cryptococcal meningitis, headache, fever, and neck pain are common symptoms of cryptococcal meningitis. We all know that cryptococcal meningitis is an infection caused by the fungus Cryptococcus after it spreads from the lungs to the brain. The symptoms of cryptococcal meningitis include headache, fever, pain, nausea and vomiting, sensitivity to light, confusion, or changes in behavior. For the prevention of this disease, C. neoformans, for immunosuppressed people, they should avoid contact with birds and avoid digging and dusty activities in areas heavily contaminated with birds' droppings. Avoiding areas with dried pigeon feces and wearing masks may help to prevent the inhalation of Cryptococcus neoformans. But how are C. neoformans infections treated? People who have C. neoformans infections need to take prescription antifungal medication for at least 6 months or often longer. For people who have asymptomatic infection, diagnosed via diabetic screening, or mildly to moderate pulmonary infections, the treatment is usually fluconazole. For people who have severe lung infections or infections in the central nervous system, the recommended initial treatment is amphotericin B in combination with flucytosine. After that, patients usually need to take fluconazole for an extended time to clear the infection. The type, dose, and duration of antifungal treatment may differ for certain groups of people, such as pregnant women, children, and people in resource-limited settings. Some people may also need surgery to remove the fungal growth. So here is my reference for the human fungal pathogen Cryptococcus neoformans. Moving on to our next topic or next parasite, Cryptosporidium parvo. For its classification, belongs to the infrakingdom Aviolata, phylum Apicomplexa, class Conoidacida, subclass Coccidia, order Eucoccidiorida, suborder Eimeriorina, family Cryptosporididae, genus Cryptosporidium, species C. parvo. For its morphology, it is a round to oval oocytes, has 4 to 6 micrometer in diameter, and can reach about 10 to 15 times per day. Oocyte seems often refractal at wet smear. Black dot or small vacuoles in oocytes could be seen after modified acid-fast staining. Next, we have the life cycle of Cryptosporidium parvo. So first, the sporulated oocytes containing 4 sporozoites are excreted by the infected host through feces, and possibly other routes such as respiratory secretions. Transmission of Cryptosporidium occurs mainly through ingestions of fecally contaminated water, like for example, drinking of recreational water or food like raw milk, or following direct contact with infected animals or people. Third, following ingestion and possibly inhalation by suitable host, excitation occurs. The sporozoites are released and parasitize the epithelial cells of the gastrointestinal tract and possibly the respiratory tract. In these cells, usually within brush border, the parasites undergo a sexual multiplication and then sexual multiplication, producing microgamonts and macrogamonts. Correction, macrogamonts for female, microgamonts for male. Upon fertilization of the macrogamonts by the microgametes, the rupture from the microgamonts oocytes develop and sporulated in infected host. Zygotes give rise to 2 different types of oocytes, thick-walled and thin-walled. Thick-walled oocytes are secreted from the host into the environment, whereas thin-walled oocytes are involved in the internal autoinfective cycle and are not recovered from stools. Oocytes are infectious upon excretion, thus enabling direct and immediate fecal-oral transmission. Extracellular stages have been reported, but their relevance in the overall life cycle is unclear. Moving on to the epidemiology and transmission of Cryptosporidium. So Cryptosporidium occurs worldwide. It is an important cause of diarrhea in both immunocompetent and immunocompromised population. Patients with AIDS are at increased risk. In addition, an estimated of 740,000 cryptosporidiosis cases occur annually, although less than 2% are reported. Hospitalization resulting from cryptosporidiosis costs an estimated of $45.8 million per year. If we convert this to our money, it will cost an estimated of 237,542 pesos. Also, cryptosporidiosis is typically characterized by profuse, watery, and non-bloody diarrhea. But how Cryptosporidium being transmitted? It is simple. Transmission of this disease is commonly occurs from person to person and by fecal-oral route and rarely by vomits. Moving on to the pathogenesis and diagnosis of Cryptosporidium parvo. Cryptosporidiosis is one of the most important protozoan pathogens that cause waterborne outbreaks worldwide. People who have direct contact with infected animals, particularly cubs, or swallow, pool water, or drink untreated water are at higher risk of contracting Cryptosporidium. The disease is more common in individuals who are in poor health or who have weakened immune systems. So for the diagnosis of cryptosporidiosis is made by examination of stool samples because detection of Cryptosporidium can be difficult. Patients may be asked to submit several stool samples over several days. Most often stool specimens are examined microscopically using different techniques, example, acid-fast staining, direct fluorescent, antibody, and or enzyme immunoassays for detection of Cryptosporidium. Also, molecular methods are used, like for example, polymerase chain reaction or PRC, are increasingly used in reference diagnostic labs since they can be used to identify Cryptosporidium at the species level. Tests for Cryptosporidium are not routinely done in most laboratories. Therefore, healthcare providers should specifically request testing for this parasite. Next, we have symptoms, prevention, and treatment. For symptoms, it is generally begin 2 to 10 days, average of 7 days after becoming infected with the parasite. So common symptoms are watery diarrhea, stomach cramps or pain, dehydration, nausea, vomiting, fever, and weight loss. But how can we prevent this? First, practice good hygiene everywhere. Washing hands with soap and water is advisable, but alcohol-based hand sanitizer are not effective. Also, avoid water that might be contaminated. If water is doubted, use commercially bottled water or previously boiled for at least 1 minute and left it cool. In addition, avoid food that might be contaminated. Buy only pasteurized or undergo sterilization to make the product safe for consumption and improves its quality. Avoid eating fruits or vegetables being washed in water that might be contaminated. Avoid eating uncooked food. Lastly, practice safer sex. Practice safer sex. Washing your hands, genitals, and anus with soap and water before and after sexual activity using barrier methods during sex. Barrier methods include condoms, dental dams, and cut-open condoms. Sex includes oral, mouth to penis, mouth to vagina, mouth to anus, anal, penis to anus, and vaginal, penis to vagina sex. Using latex gloves during anal fingering or fisting, using condoms the right way every time you have anal and vaginal sex, which will also help prevent other sexually transmitted infections. Washing your hands with soap and water immediately after touching a used condom or other barrier method, washing sex toys with soap and water after each use, and washing hands after touching used sex toys. Furthermore, disinfect surfaces and objects. And lastly, educate the people, parents, staff, children. It is important to educate the people so they do not get any diseases caused by bacteria and parasites. For the treatment, healthy people will recover without treatment and can manage by drinking plenty of water. Depending on your case, your doctor might recommend medications such as Fumomycin, an antibiotic, nitazoxanide, a drug that fights parasites, an antiparasitic, as well as loperamide and other medicines to ease the diarrhea. Here is my reference for the parasite Cryptosporidium parvum. Let's move on to the last parasite, which is Demodex folliculorum. Demodex folliculorum classifications belongs to the kingdom of Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, subphylum Chelicerata, class Arachnida, subclass Acari, order Trombidiformes, family Demodicidae, genus Demodex, species D. folliculorum. The morphology of D. folliculorum shares many similarities to that of D. brevis. Adult D. folliculorum range from 0.3 to 0.4 mm in length and are composed of two fused body segments. Both segments are covered in scales and assist in anchoring to the hair follicle. The anterior segment has 8 short legs attached that allow movement of 18 to 16 mm per hour. Moving on to the life cycle of Demodex folliculorum, or the survival of Demodex. First, the life cycle is usually 2 to 3 weeks. A female Demodex might lay 15 to 20 eggs inside the hair follicle near the sebaceous glands. The eggs develop into larvae which become an adult 8-legged mite. The adult male Demodex mite will leave the follicle in search of a mate, while the adult female mite remains in the follicle. The mites are capable of walking approximately 10 mm per hour and tend to be more active in the dark. On dry skin, Demodex does not live. Next is the epidemiology and transmission of Demodex. For the epidemiology, Demodex is common among people of all races. Persons' gender does not affect the frequency of tick infections. In the CD and healthy groups, the prevalence of Demodex folliculorum was 13.33% and 0% in children less than 6 years old, 22.22% and 1.78% in juveniles 7 to 17 years old group age, 21.74% and 8.71% in youth having a group range of 18 to 40 years old, 24.31% and 9.18% in middle-aged patients 41 to 65 years old, and lastly 30.97% and 12.87% in old patients 68 to 88 years old group age. For the transmission of this Demodex, it is known that Demodex is in direct contact with humans. The mites are transferred between hosts through contact of hair, eyebrows, and sebaceous glands on the nose. Moving on to the pathogenesis and diagnosis of D. follicularum. For pathogenesis, contain lipase, contain or found in areas high with sebum, vis, forehead, cheeks, nasobial, fold, scalp, external ear, eyelashes, follicles, meibomian glands, upper chest, and nipples. D. follicularum, head down position in the follicle, often with the tip of the abdomen protruding from the follicular or refist. Follicle mites are quite motile and migrate from follicle to follicle. Most infested follicles contain 2 to 6 mites, but occasionally they are much more numerous. Mites have been isolated from individuals of all ages except neonates. Prevalence INC with age and skin surface biopsy or scraping identifies clusters. But how is Demodex follicularum diagnosed. Since D. follicularum aren't visible to the naked eye, you'll need to see a doctor to get a definitive diagnosis. To diagnose these mites, your doctor will scrape a small sample of follicular tissues and oils from your face. A skin biopsy shown under a microscope can determine the presence of these mites on the face. A doctor will start the diagnosis of D. follicularum by taking a medical history and examining the skin. The mites are too small to be seen with the naked eye, so the doctor will usually do a skin biopsy. This involves taking a sample of the skin and examining it under a microscope. It is important to determine the quantity of mites living on the skin. A small number of mites is likely or unlikely to be the cause of an individual's skin problem. Moving on to the symptoms, prevention, and treatment of D. follicularum. For symptoms, large number of D. follicularum mites can cause rosacea-like symptoms on the skin of the face. These symptoms include dryness, itching, flashing, acne-like blemishes, redness, rough feeling skin, and eye redness. Also, the symptoms caused by D. follicularum mites are sometimes mistaken for acne or severe skin dryness. To reduce the chance of the mites proliferating excessively, following preventive measures are important. First, cleanse the face twice daily with non-soap cleansers. Second, avoid oil-based cleansers and greasy makeup. Third, and last, exfoliate periodically to remove dead skin cells. For treatment, you can do home treatment. Gently scrub your eyelashes with a 50% solution of tea tree oil. This helps to eliminate some of the D. follicularum. Also, you can do a medical treatments using creams, gels, and face washes with the following active ingredients may also help: benzyl benzoate, salicylic acid, selenium sulfide, and sulfur. Your doctor may also prescribe cream, topical insecticides, which is clotamicin and permethrin. Also, topical or oral and antibiotic, metronidazole. And for people who have severely weakened immune system, they will prescribe ivermectin. Demodex facial wipes or towelettes are useful or helps to control Demodex follicularum. So doctors may also apply a high concentration alcohol solution to person's face. This brings the Demodex mites to the surface. So here is my reference in tackling the Demodex mite or the Demodex follicularum. To wrap up our discussion, first we discuss Cryptococcus neoformans as a yeast with a prominent polysaccharide capsule. It is an opportunistic fungal pathogen, notoriously known as the most common cause of fungal meningitis in immunocompromised patients such as people with HIV or AIDS. The life cycle of this involves asexual, where the yeast cells reproduces by budding, and sexual, wherein it represented by conjugation of yeast cells. Cryptococcus is rare in healthy human population, but a major problem in resource-limited countries where HIV prevalence are high and access to healthcare are limited. The infection can be acquired through human-to-human contact as well as contact with pigeon droppings and unwashed fruits. Usually, they can detect the infection by looking on your medical history, symptoms, physical examination, and laboratory tests. The infection may differ based on the infected body parts. In the lungs, the common symptoms are cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, and fever. In addition, the symptoms of cryptococcal meningitis are headache, fever, neck pain, nausea and vomiting, sensitivity to light, and confusion or changes in behavior. We can prevent this by avoiding places with contaminated by birds' feces as well as wearing masks. Furthermore, the recommended treatment for Cryptococcus infection is antifungal medication for at least 6 months and often longer. To summary the next topic, Cryptosporidium is a microscopic parasite that causes the diarrheal disease cryptosporidiosis. The cycle of this infection starts with the inclusion of oocytes by infected individual, transmission by ingestion of fecally contaminated water, and then later the sexual and asexual multiplication upon fertilization. This infection occurs worldwide, and an important cause of profuse, watery, and non-bloody diarrhea in both immunocompetent and immunocompromised population. The transmission occurs from person to person by fecal oral routes and rarely by vomits. It is diagnosed by molecular method and by running different laboratory examination on the stool. Generally, the symptoms begin on an average of 7 days after being infected by the parasite. Common symptoms are watery diarrhea, stomach cramps or pain, dehydration, nausea, vomiting, fever, and weight loss. In addition, to prevent this, you need to practice good hygiene, avoid contaminated water and food, as well as practice safe sex. Furthermore, for healthy people, this can be managed by drinking plenty of water, but depending on your case, because doctors will prescribe you antibiotics and other medicine to ease diarrhea. To summary the last topic, Demodex follicularum is a microscopic mite that can only survive on the skin of humans. Most people have D. follicularum on their skin. Usually, the mite do not cause any harm, and therefore considered an example of commensalism rather than parasitism. If D. follicularum does cause disease, this is known as demodicosis. The life cycle of this parasite is usually 2 to 3 weeks. The mite may lay 15 to 20 eggs and then develop into larvae which later become an adult 8-leg mite. This is common on all races and is transmitted through contact with hair, eyebrows, and sebaceous glands on the nose. The diagnosis of this is hard, and you need skin biopsy to determine mites on your skin. The symptoms of this is rosacea-like and often mistaken as acne or severe skin dryness. To prevent this, you need to clean your face with non-soap cleanser, avoiding greasy makeup as well as exfoliating the face to remove the dead skin. Lastly, you can do a home treatment by applying tea tree oil on your face or by recommended by doctors like creams, gels, and face washes.